Everyone wants more money, but most of us weren't taught how to create an abundant life. That's where the law of attraction, manifesting success stories show comes in. If you are ready to have more money, create more freedom, and experience more fun, turn the volume up. It's time to learn how to create the prosperity and life you have been dreaming of. Here's your host, Cassie Parks.
Hello and welcome to this episode. I am your host, Cassie Parks, and today, of course, we are going to talk about my move and living at the Four Seasons, move into and then living at the Four Seasons, and how that came about and being creative and all of that. We're going to continue the story of my Jimmies and their return on investment, which is huge. It was huge immediately, and it was huge. It's been huge. It continues to be huge. It continues to be a thing that, my Jimmies, if I put them on a list, like of, 10 of my favorite purchases, they would make it every time. And so we're going to continue that story, and you're going to learn how the Jimmies weave even deeper into the Four Seasons. So I'm excited about that. I am also excited about the upcoming Learn How to Manifest Money live virtual event, which takes place November 1st. It's coming up. So excited. The energy of that day is so amazing. It might have been a better choice. I don't know. Some people might say to have chose Saturday because it's Saturday, but A, that's Halloween, and B, November 1st is part of my Freedomversary, and I love selling it. I was thinking real estate and the Jimmies and things like that, but I love celebrating. I do love actually selling. Learn How to Manifest Money live virtual, because it's going to be an amazing event. And so I logged in this morning, and someone had bought a ticket at 2:00 in the morning, and I was so excited because I know you're going to walk away changed. You're going to walk away with abundance momentum flowing. You're going to walk away knowing probably why what you haven't done obviously hasn't worked, but you're going to know why what you have done might not have worked in the past, or might not have created that momentum and that flow and that attraction and being a money magnet that you've wanted. And you're going to know how to implement your own system to attract money. And you're going to have the momentum and the energy behind it. Like, I'm not just going to teach you and then you walk away and you have to go put all these things into play, which is one of my most frustrating things. Is I would go to these events in my early kind of self-development days, and I would walk away wanting to do all of these things, but I just came away with this to-do list. And while you're going to walk away with what to do and your own personal plan, it's not going to be like a to-do list of do 20 manifesting things a day. You're going to actually know what to do, and you're going to plan what you do every day. Because it's important to me that you can walk away from something when you're working with me and you can do it. And you can do it, without too much like, am I doing it right? And so you're gonna create that for yourself. Of course, I've said before, you'll have the opportunity if you decide like, yeah, this is a great plan I came up with, but I'd rather just jump into the enchanted circle and do the daily stuff. You'll have that opportunity too. So it's a great way to learn how to create your own plan that isn't going to be a mile long, because I'm not a fan of the manifesting to-do list. I am a fan of 20 minutes a day. And so I'm going to teach you that. And I'm going to teach you that after we've created this momentum and how to be in it. And you know what it feels like to be in this abundant momentum and energy and feeling and creating. And you know what it's like to be somebody who feels abundant instead of somebody who hopes to feel abundant. Right? So I'm excited about that. I'm really excited about that. And you can register by going to cassieparks.com and just clicking on Learn How to Manifest Money live virtual. It's a very long name, but it is what it is. And so come spend the day with me and other manifestors, and let's all use that collective energy to create amazing abundance momentum. I know money's going to show up during it. Like, people are going to be amazed. We're going to walk away with stories of people being like, oh, somebody just texted me and gave me money. Somebody randomly sent me money on Venmo. I went to my mailbox and I got a random check. Or somebody called and they're going to pay me back money that they owed me a long time ago. Because that's what happens when you activate that momentum of abundance and you activate the energy of it. And we're going to be doing it in a group, which is even more powerful. So it's going to be amazing. And I'm excited about that. I am also excited about this podcast and the evolution. So I feel like I didn't really give you guys that much of a heads up, maybe just like an episode where I said, hey, the name is changing, but the name of this podcast has changed twice. And the other day, I'm going to shout out to listener Kath, and she knows who she is. She is in the UK, and she's left some amazing reviews, and we've been communicating a little bit. And she said something in her review that just sparked this inspiration of maybe Happy Ever After is the perfect title for this podcast. Maybe that's where I'm going back to. And it just tied into a lot of other inspirations that I've had, and it didn't feel right in the beginning, and now I'm like, maybe it does. So anyway, it's just fun to follow inspiration. It's fun to let it simmer, right? And that goes into a little bit of the Jimmy Choo lesson, right? Bringing the shoes home and letting them sit there, and then taking them out of the box and letting them sit there is really letting things simmer, right? It's not needing it to, mix it all up and be ready right now. It's allowing all the flavors, all the things that you're manifesting to come together and to cook together and to simmer, and to see how it all connects and plays out. So just a little heads up and a little fun insight into what might be happening and what might not happen. You never know. It's just inspiration, and it's fun to play with. And I like to be the model of what you do with inspiration is you just love the energy. You love the energy, and you let the what you need to do go until you know what you need to do. So all right, let's jump into the 4 seasons. I know in the past, so if you're new and you've never heard this story, I'm super excited because I have not lived at the 4 seasons in 3 years, maybe almost 4 years at this point. And yet it was such a pivotal part of my growth and my early development and my money mindset, and it had so much to do. I grew so much in the experience of the 4 seasons. And of course, it's going to tie back to the Jimmies, and you're going to learn how the Jimmies impacted that. But so the idea, so actually let me backtrack. Wait, like a couple years before I quit my job, when I was moving downtown, I had made the decision I want to move downtown, and I had been looking at studios, right? So like the lowest end, which was cool. I was fine with that. And I was actually really excited about the smaller space. I tend to love a small, simple space. I really came to love the opportunity that downsizing, I don't even call it downsizing, but choosing to be in a place that I loved over a place that had a lot of space. It was a very big lesson in my life, and I loved it, and I always was interesting before I even moved downtown is I had gotten a quote to extend. I had a patio that was the length of my house, which was pretty big. The length anyway. The house was, I don't know, 1,000 square feet, 1,100 square feet, but the patio was pretty big and it was covered. And so I'd gotten a quote to enclose that. And so I could even have more space. It was just me at that time. And what I always find interesting about that is that I was seeking more space, but what I really wanted was actually less space. I was trying to grow, but I just hadn't seen the way to do it yet. And I always look at that interesting because I was thinking of like, how can I add on this square feet that was probably, it was at least another couple hundred square feet if that was enclosed and that was my office and all of this. And what I really was seeking was to be downtown. I just couldn't see it yet. In a much smaller place, right? So that place was 1,100. I wanted to add another couple hundred, 100 or 200. And then I ended up moving into a place that was 495 square feet, which I loved, had a perfect office space. And it was perfect. And so I'm sure that'll come up in a future episode. But when I was getting ready to move downtown and looking at studios, they were building the Four Seasons, and somebody jokingly said, they knew we were looking, and I didn't know it was a joke. They're like, oh, you should look at the Four Seasons. And I had no idea. Like, that wasn't even in my realm. Like, I didn't know how much that would be. I didn't know, like, I'd never probably stayed at any place above a Marriott. And so I just had no idea what that energy or what that was. So I got back to my desk and I looked online, and like anything that was under $1 million had been sold. And I couldn't even find the price, but I could guess the price, so the price that I was looking at that time was $120,000. And so I could guess that, there was nothing for less than $500,000 that had been for sale in the Four Seasons, right? And so in that moment, I just remember like, oh, that's not me. Like having this feeling of, I can't live there. And it wasn't like despair, or like, it was just like, oh, that's not me. And I was okay with it. And it, just whatever, accepting. Like I was still excited about my move. I was still excited about finding a perfect studio with an amazing balcony and a mountain view. And that was really what was lighting my heart up. So I was okay with that. And so fast forward probably 4 to 5 years, and I'm doing my own future self work. I'm doing a workshop. This came out of a workshop. I was doing my workshop, as I tell you guys that I do frequently. And I was to my future budget, my future self budget, and what would I want? And I got my number, and I don't know if I was working with making $1 million a year or whatever, but the way that I do my budget is attraction. And so even when I say, when I got intuitively like, okay, I'm making $1 million, what does that life look like? Which is one of my tools for stepping into your future self. And I percentaged it out, so, okay, like 50% is going to go to my living expenses. And I'm like, oh, okay, then like how much does that make rent? And I think it came out to like maybe $10,000. And I'm like, oh, I've never even, this is why it's important to look at things and to step out of things and often come at things in an intuitive way. As you learned in the last episode, really allowing myself to be drawn to the Jimmies made a change. And often in the future self-work, we know what we want, but we allow other things to come in sort of intuitively that maybe we didn't have any idea. And I have different processes which draw that out. And this is one of them, is your future self budget. And so when I looked at it and I said, did the same thing I would tell my clients to do. And I went and I looked, and I'm like, what would $10,000 in rent? Like, where would I even invest $10,000 in rent? Right? I probably had a $1,500 mortgage, and I was like, where would I even do that? Right? And so I got online and I went to the places that I used for my own real estate to look up rent. And I put in the range, and up came the Four Seasons. And I said, oh, this person has the ability to live at the Four Seasons. This person is someone who can live at the Four Seasons. And I really, as part of my work, so I finished the workshop, and then, just intuitively, I was like, I could do this today. I saw it, and I couldn't do it long term, but there was just shifts I was making in my finances. And I was like, I can live here for a year. I know that. And I can see I can allow myself to step into this experience for a year. I knew I didn't want to buy there, but with that rent, I was like, oh, I can invest in an experience that will shift and grow me in ways that I don't know. And it was all part of stepping into your future self. And I was really, it was like, this is the next step. This is what you should do. And not you should do in a bad way, but just should. And like, this is the next thing. And so I started stepping into being this person that could live at the Four Seasons. And I started looking at places, and it was actually a little while. I had a plan. I knew where the money would come from, because my business I wasn't making $1 million, right? I was stepping into that. I wasn't making that money then, or had that income. And I was selling some real estate and shifting some things around. And I'm like, I know that I can do this. And so I started looking, and actually where I ended up living was $7,000 a month. And I was like, okay, and I started looking at a place, and you heard that in the Jimmy Choo episode. I had looked at a place, and then I went and looked for my Jimmy Choos, and it was beautiful, and I liked it. And I think I was into it. I don't know. We were doing some negotiations, and what happened is that there was like a realtor and his assistant, or a realtor and his whoever else. He had somebody in his office that was helping us while he was currently working with a different client. And someone came in and rented that. And I remember, she called my real estate agent, and she said, it's been rented. Because we were asking questions, because one of the things I wanted was an outdoor TV mounted, because I used to live in a building across from the Four Seasons. And so I could see these big, amazing balconies and these outdoor TV. And I was like, that would be so fun to sit out and watch football games and do this, or have movie nights out in the middle, like feeling like you're kind of floating in the middle of the city. So I think we were negotiating, was that possible? Could I do that as a renter? Could I have that installed? Like, what did that look like? Or something else. And anyway, in the middle of the negotiations, the head of the office, he didn't realize we were also interested, and he rented it. And, so the other real estate agent has to call my real estate agent and say, like, oh, it's gone. And he's like, oh, okay. And she's like, your client's not going to be mad? He's like, no, she'll believe it's okay. She'll know, like, it wasn't hers, and something better is coming along. And I think it was partly too, maybe we were negotiating the lease date, or we were negotiating because the property had to sell, which had been for sale for a while and wasn't totally selling, or I don't know, maybe we hadn't put it on. I don't know. There was something about that. And so he called me, and I said, okay. And this was one that had there was only like 4 that had this certain type of balcony, and it was bigger, and it was cool. And yet it was a little bit different. And I was like, okay, no big deal. And so, we go on, and I go to this event, and I wear my Jimmies all day long at the red carpet event. Like, I didn't really take them off until maybe 5:00 at night. I wore them from like 9:00 in the morning until 5:00 at night. I wore them all day, and it was interesting. So as I'm driving to the event, I think on Monday, we got an offer on this condo that had been for sale for a while, and it was way low. And I was like, don't even respond. Right. And the longer I wore the Jimmies, the more offers came in, literally. And there hadn't been an offer on this place in, I don't know if we'd even gotten an offer, maybe one other lowball offer like a month or 2 before. But it had been on the market for a little while. It was winter. And so it wasn't surprising, and it was fine. I wasn't concerned. While I'm driving to this event, we get this lowball offer, and I'm like, no, immediately. Don't even respond with a counter. Like, we're not wasting our time. And because I feel like it was 60% of what it was listed for. And we were like, nope. And so, then I get to the event, and I put the Jimmies on. And as I do it, like, more offers are coming on. And it's a Tuesday. This is not like, it's not like, oh, Saturday rolled around and all these people went and looked. It's a Tuesday. We started getting offers. And well, I think we got one offer in the morning. And then he got notice that we were going to get another one. And so we sent out the thing, and we said highest and best, like, send your highest and best, and we'll look at them when I get back. And we ended up getting $10,000 over asking price. Now, if you remember, my Jimmies were $750. And so, I'll even round it to 8 with tax, right? And so we got a 1,250% return. I got a 1,250% return on my Jimmies over the asking price on a place that hadn't been selling for like 2 to 3 months. I 100% know it was the energy of stepping into the Jimmies. It was the energy of the Jimmies representing in this way, stepping into the Four Seasons and becoming that person who could live at the Four Seasons, right? and who could have those shoes. And it was 100% walking around in those shoes and owning it. Like I was literally stepping into my future self. Even if I was doing nothing, I had written and launched 3 books before. Yes, it was a red carpet event, but that's not that different. That wasn't the part that was my future self. It was walking around in my jimmies. It was owning all day long, these are my shoes. It was telling the story. It was taking in the compliments. It was, oh my gosh, those are so glittery. It was all of that was stepping into my future self, which not only put that energy in alignment of getting that sale of that property, but getting $10,000 more on a property that had not even really had offers that were close to asking price in 3 months. And that was the money for the 4 Seasons. So when I sold that, that was paid off. It was all cash. And that was going to be the money that I invested for the year at the 4 Seasons. And there's so many things about that. Like this story will continue to play out because there's such a big lesson that I learned and is amazing. And I'm so glad that I invested that money to live there. And prior to this, I guess I should talk a little bit about the energy of manifesting the 4 Seasons, right? So as I was stepping into the energy, not just did I do the jimmies, but I would, like I said, I lived across the street. So what I would do when I changed my walking route so that I would walk by as if I was leaving the 4 Seasons. And because I would walk every morning, that's part of my routine. And I would come home so that I went in front of it, so that it was as if, which was not the way that I had been going. Like I would leave out the front of our building and, even though they're across the street, their entrances are in different directions, right? I'm not great at directions, but one probably faces north and one faces east. Probably the wrong directions, but actually one probably faces west and one faces north, right? And so I would always leave and go out of the building a certain way, go for my walk and come home a certain way. But I consciously changed the way that I walk because I wanted to practice as if I was leaving and coming to the 4 Seasons. So that was one of the things I did. I started going to the spa at the 4 Seasons. They had this special and I loved it. And I think I would even do it when it wasn't the special, but there's no reason to get the special because it was in perfect timing with when I wanted to go. So they had what they called happy hour. And so I would go and I would make sure to go really early before my massage so that I could soak up every single opportunity I had to play at the 4 Seasons and to be there and to live as if and to practice that this is going to be my home, right? And I would tell the massage yeah, I'm looking for a place in here. I'm moving in here, and which was super fun. And so I would take advantage of that. I would, again, the walk, just different things, changing up. And it doesn't have to be a lot to act as if or to be as if. It's being conscious of the energy, right? Changing my walking path alone was probably enough. The spa was fun and I loved getting massages, and it was it was probably Tuesday nights at that point because Wednesdays were my day off. I would walk over and it was a great way to enjoy the night. And, it was winter time. And so it would be dark and you could see the stars while you're getting massage and enjoy all of the spa facilities and just hang out and really enjoy it. Was a great Tuesday night. And so that was more enjoyment. And I think I could have even created the energy with just the walking, because it's the consciousness of what will be different. What will this look like? Who will I be? Right? It's paying attention to what is different in this situation. And so as simple, I also changed the way I drove in the same way that I changed the way I walked, as downtown. So there's one-way streets. So there was definitely a way in which I would come home generally, but I started coming home as if I was driving in the 4 Seasons, which is a little, might be a block or two longer, but I was practicing driving there. So it would even change the route when I would go somewhere and I would come back home, so that I drove by the 4 Seasons, so that I took the street that I would take if I were living at the 4 Seasons, I would take that straight. And of course, then I would jog over to my building. But it's just being conscious of those things that are going to change, right? And I loved it. Oh, and, I didn't get the one place. And then after, my place went under contract, we went to see another one and I loved it. And when I got home, I pulled out, there was something different on that floor. It has bigger windows because something structurally, but there was only a couple floors that had, or below where I had looked before on those floors, there were smaller windows. And the windows is really what I love and what I wanted. And so when we went to look at the new place, it had bigger windows. And when I came home, I looked on my 10K vision board that I had made when I rewrote 10K, and there was a apartment with a mountain view, and the window was the same. Like, I don't know if it was there or not, but what I do know is I was like, that's the window. Like, that's it. And it was just confirmation. The other thing that was confirmation or was fun is that on that same vision board, there was a Buddha that I had put on that vision board. And that same Buddha was in like a little 2-inch statue was in the bathroom. There was barely anything on the counter. But on this one little shelf that had these cool shelves in there, there was a Buddha. And there was a little Buddha. And the owners were from Cheyenne, which is from where my great aunt lived for years. And so there was just so many things that you could see, yes, this is it. But I also created it by stepping into it, by changing the way I drove, by changing this, by opening up to being the person that lives there, and then by being led. And so what I did with the $10,000 extra was I invested in brand new bed, furniture, what I call grown-up furniture. I had never bought, I had bought one couch, but it was off of Craigslist before. Everything else had been sort of manifested or handy down. And I said, I took my purple couch, of course, but I said, I'm going to buy a couch and I'm going to buy an ottoman. I plan on buying a dining room table, which is a funny story that never happened, and a new bedroom set. And so it's so amazing because I manifested that money, that extra money with the Jimmies, which was all stepping into the Four Seasons, which is all still in my life. So it's still the bedroom set I have, my couch I love, and all of it, it has that energy. It reminds me of who I can be if I choose, right? And for me, that was the biggest thing about the Four Seasons. Like I loved every second there. And I was ready to move when I moved. If you've heard, I've talked about this on this podcast before, but I loved every growth opportunity. I loved it. And I don't think I'll ever go back. It won't ever probably, I don't know, right? Because I don't know everything. I don't know who I'll shift and change, but it's never going to be the thing. Like I want to go back there. I loved it. And it isn't what I want anymore. I wanted to be able to do it, and I did do it, and I loved it. I love every growth. I loved learning how to let people take care of me. That was one of the biggest lessons there, is that, there's a bat phone, and so you can call the front desk and you can say, hey, can you bring up a rollaway bed for my friends? Hey, I'm having a workshop. Can you send up 3 tables with linens and chairs? Hey, could you, whatever, go get me this. The bat phone is literally like you can call and you can ask for anything. Like, oh, can you schedule house cleaning for me next week? Hey, can you send the seamstress up because I need to get my pants hemmed? All of these things are options. And learning how to enjoy that and receive that was a whole new level of receiving. Oh, a call down. I always... I could have gone and got my own car, but you could have the valet bring it up. I always, so call down. I'm on my way down. Can you have the valet bring my car around? Right. And getting out with the keys in it and going up. And it was an experience that I had to learn how to grow. And I loved every second of it. And I don't know that I'll do it in the future. But I do know that wanting that and opening and following the process of opening to that in my future self and opening to that and living there changed who I was. And it helped me grow into the next version of my future self. And I still believe it helps me grow into the next and the next because I have that experience. And one of the things that I talk about is going out and getting that experience that feels so far away, even if it's saving up and renting like a really amazing mansion so that you know what it feels like to live there, because you can't unknow that experience. We can create and we can visualize and we script and we do all of those things, and that creates a lot of things in our life. And when we have actual experiences that we can go get, that we like, if we can find a way, or we can be inspired, or we can, a lot of times we just attract this. I'm going to share a story about staying at a multi-million-dollar home, which was just a total attraction, and getting that experience that way. But you know, when we get those experiences, however they come, whether we make a choice to invest in them or to save to be able to go get the experience, or as we're doing the work, it comes to us, we can't unknow those experiences. And the power of tapping into them, even if they were for a short time, like even if they were for 2 days, or they were for a year, or they were for whatever, you can't unknow that. And that experience stays with you. And you get to love it and build on it, and it opens you in such a way that's amazing. And that's what the Four Seasons did to me. It opened up this space. It was an experience, and it let me know, like, now I'm the person who chooses not to live at the Four Seasons, right? And again, amazing. I love everyone there. I loved that experience. It's just not, you know, one of my friends, I was looking at a different house, and they had spent a lot of time there with me. And I said, it's just not what I want. Like, it's just, I don't, and they're like, it wasn't homey. And I said, exactly. I loved it, but the feeling and the energy of it wasn't the feeling I want long term. And again, it's amazing. If you have that opportunity, you definitely want to do it. And for me, it was a moment, and it was the perfect moment to step into my future self and to become somebody who can do that, and to know that, because for years I had thought I was not someone who could do that. And it changed me, and I loved it, and I totally manifested it by driving and changing all the things. Oh, and this is one that my clients always loved. I'm going to wrap up with, in the spa, I had everywhere, you know, like in the entrance and in the gyms. There were 2 gyms. If you're a resident, you had the resident gym and you had the hotel gym. And in the spa and in the entrance, there would be water that would have like cucumbers and lemon and sometimes oranges. And so I started making that water at home, and I put it on my counter in a pitcher that looked like the one that was at the Four Seasons, to give myself that experience and that feel. And it's those minor things that you can do that bring in that energy. So have fun with this. I would encourage you to find one thing about something that you want to create and see how you can get some of that today, the way that I did with the Four Seasons. And then watch how things open, like buying Jimmy Choo's and getting a 1,250% return. And also enabling you to, get the thing or have the path to what you want, which doesn't always have to be money. In my case, it was. So have a wonderful day. I will talk to you next week.
Thank you for joining us on the Law of Attraction Manifesting Success Stories show. To learn more about enrolling in the Enchanted Circle, go to cassieparks.com.